Hello everybody. So something incredibly fucked up just happened a couple of hours ago. It's 3:50 p.m. and at 2:13 p.m. today, the Attorney General in my state in Missouri issued an emergency statement. It's not a bill that has passed. It's not something that's gone through the legislature. It's something that's essentially circumvented the legislative process. And the emergency statement essentially bans all trans-affirming care for everyone in Missouri. I'm on testosterone. I could have my testosterone taken away from me, and that would be really detrimental to my fucking health. So, I'm a little bit freaked out right now. I'm going to try to get through this and let you guys know what's going on, but this is, I'm not going to hide the fact that this is affecting me. My girlfriend is also trans, and we're fucking scared. We've been scared. And one thing that I do want to say is I don't want people to panic, because the Missouri Attorney General has done something like this before. Last month, he was either he issued a similar statement or he was threatening to issue the statement, planning to issue the statement. And a lot of hospitals in Missouri that treated trans kids, because he was saying that it was only going to be for minors, it was only going to block HRT and puberty blockers and surgeries for minors, which it doesn't. It affects everyone. It affects adults. The emergency statement that he's issued. But a lot of hospitals in Missouri have spoken up and said, no, we're not fucking listening to you. This is unreasonable. This is harming our patients. You're doing this for your fucking conservative political clout farming. Like, no, we're not complying. We're not going to harm our patients because the Republican Party wants to do it for fucking clout, for goddamn virtue signaling. So what I do want to say is these rules are so unreasonable that I think a good deal of doctors are just going to be pissed and they are not going to attempt to comply. I think a lot of hospital systems are just going to keep operating as usual. I think there's a very good chance that, like, if you live in Missouri and you're on HRT or you're like anticipating a surgery, I think you shouldn't worry. I'm trying my best not to worry. I know that I seem like really panicked, and I am pretty fucking panicked. And like, we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens. But again, this is an emergency rule issued by the Attorney General. It's not a bill that's been passed into law. And because of that, like, circumventing nature of this rule, I think it's more likely that a lot of doctors will just say fuck it and not listen. But I did one of the rules that are on here. And by the way, nobody's allowed to judge my tabs. Yeah, I'm playing Resident Evil 4 right now. So, let's look at the highlights of it. First of all, becomes effective April 27th, 2023. So it gives us, what, like 2 weeks? We get 2 weeks to comply to these ridiculous rules. Like, medical professionals are, it's not reasonable. That is not enough time. Something else that I wanted to tell you guys is, I know someone who works with the Missouri legislature, and I'm not going to say who this person is because, like, I don't want to get them in trouble for, like, potentially sharing information that they gave me that I don't know if they were supposed to tell me so early, because I haven't even seen this shit coming out, like, in news articles yet, hardly. So, what I have been told by this person is that no one is happy about it. It's already being discussed. It is being challenged by the Missouri Supreme Court, sorry. It is already being challenged. It is currently being discussed, and everybody's like, bro, you're literally doing this for clout. This is stupid. No, we're not doing this shit. So there's a possibility that it's just going to be removed early, hopefully, but we'll see what happens. And so here's the stuff that I want you to know about it. First of all, April 27th. Is that literally 2 weeks from now? Yeah, it is. That's not reasonable. Second, so this first part, we look at number one, it's setting the terms. The terms here, they're saying what is not a transition intervention. And so they're saying, you know, if you're performing medical transition for intersex people to make them appear more dyadic and make them appear more cis, then that's a-okay with us, because, you know, that's where they're that's what they're up to. That's what they want to do. Next is if you have precocious puberty, that's okay. You can have puberty blockers if you're a cis kid with precocious puberty, of course. You know, puberty blockers, we know they're not dangerous. It's okay for cis kids to have them, but we just don't want the goddamn transsexuals to be living their best lives. That's the purpose. That's what this is about. And here we get to number two, so that's where we really get into the stuff. So they're saying it is unlawful practice for any person or health organization to provide a covered gender transition intervention to a patient if the person or health organization fails to do a number of things. So those things are, like I said earlier, incredibly unreasonable. The first one is fails to assess at least annually whether the patient continues to have gender dysphoria. I think this actually appears again later in this very long list, where they basically are saying that you have to have documented in the last 3 years that somebody has had consistent dysphoria. Like in the last 3 years, you have to have a psychological evaluation, and they give details of like it's like at least an hour-long appointment with the same therapist for 18 months, and I think it's at least 10 appointments, and it's fucking crazy. The thing is that, like, if you haven't already been doing this, then you are going to have your medication taken away from you. That's what he wants. That is what he's written into these rules. And again, I don't want you to panic, because I have a feeling that a lot of doctors are going to say fuck you and just not comply. That's what I'm really hoping. And we've been talking about this for a while, but if you have to find illegal ways to access your HRT, like getting in touch with your local trans community, like knowing people and knowing ways to get the medication that you need, that's really important right now. If that's not something that you have done already, then like you need to get in touch with other local LGBT people and figure out how you can make that happen. And hell, it might not even be other trans people or other queer people. Like, there are cis people who care and will have your back, and you can asking for help right now is unavoidable. You cannot do this by yourself. You need help. Don't try to do this alone. Okay. So, B on this list is fails to obtain informed consent by disclosing conspicuously on its website, physically in writing, and orally in person by the prescribing provider to the patient, and if the patient is a minor, to the patient's parents or legal guardians. And something else that I want you to notice here, we have read the rules here, and none of this says shit about minors. This is not about minors. There's a part here where it says if the patient is a minor. If. Some articles have already come out about this, and they have misleadingly written that this affects minors. This does not only affect minors, this affects adults. It is not written into the rules that this only affects minors. Jesus, it's so goddamn scary. Attorney generals in red states, they need to stop. Like, they're I don't know, is it like if you're a guy who really wants some goddamn attention, then you just got to become an attorney general, and that's how you get the attention you need? I don't know. Fucking know. Okay, so what this is saying is that, so informed consent is whenever you go in to get like a medical procedure or a medication, and they have you sign piece of paper that says, I understand, like I'm mentally well enough to consent to this. The doctor has figured out that I'm well enough to consent to this document, and I understand what the medication is going to do to my body, and it'll have like a really long list. Potentially, like whenever I started testosterone, I started it with Planned Parenthood, and I did the informed consent process. So instead of like having to go to mental health professionals and like have a doctor like evaluate that I'm really trans and all that fucking gatekeeping bullshit, I did informed consent. So I went to Planned Parenthood. They gave me a piece of paper. The piece of paper said, testosterone's going to do with this to your body. You cool with that? And then I sign the paper and say, yeah, that's exactly what I want, actually. So that's what informed consent is. And what you might notice here, orally in person by the prescribing provider. This is not only something that needs to be put on paper, which, like, I've never signed a piece of paper that says all of these things. Do you see how much shit is on here? Up until number 23. Not only do you have to sign a piece of paper that says all of this, but the prescribing provider has to orally, in person, say this to a patient. So in 2 weeks, every patient that you have who is on HRT or who has an appointment to get a gender-affirming surgery, you need to, within the next 2 weeks before April 27th, have them go through this brand new informed consent process, which this motherfucker just spat out today. He just, like, schizo-posted, created this huge fucking list. Like, my doctor is not going to have time to do this with every fucking trans patient that she has. She would have to cancel all of her appointments with all of her other patients, and in the meantime, like, I wouldn't have any testosterone. And also, that's not the only thing, okay? Like, this part is already bad enough. The number B, letter B on this list is already fucking bonkers. It's not doable. But we go to C. Yeah, for the three most recent consecutive years that the patient has exhibited a medically documented, long-lasting, persistent, and intense pattern of gender dysphoria. So, I did the informed consent process. A lot of trans people cannot fucking afford to go to the doctor and get psychiatric care this frequently. And in the last, like, let's say that I've been transitioning, I've been on testosterone for 3.5 years. If I didn't have regular therapy and I didn't have documents lined up in the last 3 years that said I have gender dysphoria, which luckily I'm an outlier. I'm a person who does have this because I'm disabled by PTSD and depression, so I get very regular mental health care. And I am one of the only people in Missouri who probably has this on paper. This is not common. This is not usual. Like, you guys know that mental health care is expensive. You know that healthcare in the US is fucking expensive. The only reason why I'm able to access it is because I'm legally disabled. I'm on SSDI and I have Medicare and Medicaid. That's the only reason why I have this. No one else fucking has this. Like, nobody else. Oh, God. This is so incredibly infuriating. Okay, so here's another one of them. Fails to ensure that the patient has received a full psychological psychiatric assessment. If you don't know, a full psychological evaluation is something that usually takes like 4 hours and multiple appointments. You often take like an IQ test. I've done this, again, because I'm somebody who is disabled by PTSD and depression, so I've had access to this because this is something that I need for my care. I don't know anyone else that I've met who's done a full psychological evaluation because it's not something a lot of people do. It's not necessary for most people. It's definitely not necessary on the basis of you being trans. For me, it had nothing to do with me being trans. It had everything to do with my goddamn PTSD and depression. And here's where he defines it: consisting of not fewer than 15 separate hourly sessions of at least 10, which must be with the same therapist over the course of not fewer than 18 months to explore the developmental influence on the patient's current. So, like, putting this, the to explore the developmental influences on the patient's current gender identity and to determine, among other things, whether the person has any mental health comorbidities. And we go to the next part, which to me implies that if there are other mental health conditions that you just can't have any access to medical transition, or it's considered unlawful on the part of the medical care provider. And again, I'm disabled by PTSD and depression. That's on my paperwork. That's in my diagnoses. It's not only in my diagnoses, but like it's legally attached to me, with me being legally disabled, me having social security, depression, what the fuck is it called? Disability income, I'm sorry. Social security disability income. I'm incredibly frustrated right now, as you might notice. I think that this letter E here implies that because I have PTSD and depression, that like I'm not supposed to be able to access testosterone. Even though like there's other things that are ridiculous here that I might be able to meet. There's also specifically including people who have been diagnosed with autism. Just if you're autistic, no transition for you. That's been something they've been working on lately, and it's something that I'd really like cis allies to keep an eye on, and like anybody who's aware of like disability advocacy to keep an eye on. The like enmeshment, like the connection of mental illness with transition, and saying that mental illness is a reason to stop transition. This is something that is happening right now. This has happened in my state as of today. They are using even just depression as an excuse to detransition people, forcibly detransition people. Like, what you guys might not understand is that I'm on testosterone. My body looks like this because I'm on testosterone. If I stop taking testosterone, my ovaries, which I kept after my hysterectomy, they will no longer be suppressed and they will start producing estrogen. And then the way that my body looks will revert back to how it used to look. And if that happened to me, do you have any idea how much I'd want to fucking kill myself? Like, this is not safe. This is not okay. I'm not mentally ill because I'm trans. Like, I have depression and I have PTSD, and those two things are related to each other. I have minority stress as a trans person. That's something that has been really hard for me to learn how to deal with. What I'm experiencing right now, actually, that you are seeing with your very own eyes, is minority stress. I am a persecuted minority, and it stresses me the fuck out, as you might imagine. You know, like, if you want trans people to be less mentally ill, if you want them to be, if you would like some psychiatric ease for your trans population in your state, you don't do it by issuing these emergency rules. Like, I'm probably going to have to take an anxiety med today. I don't want to take my anxiety med today. Like, I'm going to try to use other coping skills and shit. Like, I already emailed my therapist about this. Like, luckily, he's a very progressive dude who's aware. And, like, maybe he might have even known about this a little bit before I did. I don't know. He's, like, on top of shit. He's really great. But, as you can see, distress is happening. It is taking place. Fails with respect to a patient who is a minor to ensure that the patient... See, this is where they say with a patient who's a minor. The entire thing applies to every trans person, not just minors. To ensure that the patient has received a comprehensive screening at least annually for social media addiction or compulsion, and has not for at least... Like, doctors and therapists and psychiatrists are not screening patients for this. This is not common to my awareness. Like, I don't. Okay, that's fine. We can just make things up. That's a thing that you can do if you're the Attorney General. Fails to ensure at least annually that the patient is not experiencing social contagion with respect to a patient's gender identity. That's not a real thing. Gender identity social contagion isn't real. So again, you can just make things up. That's fine. You could do that. Fails to adopt and follow a procedure to track all adverse events, both expected and unexpected, that arise from any course of covered gender transition intervention for all patients, beginning the first day of intervention and continuing for a period not fewer than 15 years. What? So he's like, oh, if you've been on HRT for 15 years, then they don't have to track the side effects anymore. Like, most doctors are going to do this. This is fine. This is kind of like whenever you're writing an essay and you want more things to be on the page, so he's just putting more shit in there. Like, doctors are doing this already. If you have side effects from HRT, they are writing that down. They want to know that so they can take care of you. They're already fucking doing that. Shut the fuck up. Fails to maintain data about adverse events in a form that can be accessed readily for systematic study. This, I don't think the guy understands. Very frequently whenever a patient is a part of a study, it requires consent of the patient. That's like 101 ethics, medical ethics. Consent is a part of that. So, no, this is incredibly unreasonable. So like, a doctor is supposed to stop what they're doing. Like, I'm already busy with all of these patients, and like a bunch of nurses have like died or quit. Same for a lot of other doctors, have like moved to different countries because they're tired of working in the US because it's terrible to work here. And then there's a shortage of various medical providers, and they're supposed to be, they got to drop what they're doing. They're already fucking busy, and they got to start documenting the patient's data in a way that can be used for studies. Like that's not going to take any extra time out of their already busy schedule. Okay. Fails to obtain and keep on file informed written consent from the patient if the patient is a minor, from all parents or guardians. This is referring back to the brand new informed consent rules that are very incredibly long that he's created. And I did want to mention, because I kind of skipped over this, on this list of things that are supposed to be on the informed consent list that a patient has to look at and sign and hear with their ears. It's a lot of just bullshit. It's just, whenever he cherry picks, like, well, there was this one study that, like, if I take one particular sentence out of it, it makes our HRT sound dangerous. So I'm going to copy paste that onto the list of the informed consent paper, and you have to look at that and sign that. So, like, one thing, this is basically like when I had my abortion when I was 19. When it used to be legal in Missouri, it's not anymore. I had to sign a paper that said something like, I understand that I am killing a potential human life, or like a human life. And this was like a similar thing where it's like, they might not be able to make things illegal, but they can at least put some bullshit on paper to make patients and doctors uncomfortable while the procedure is happening. Like, make it more distressing and make it more stupid while you already have other shit to deal with. Like, I have a negative blood type, and something really interesting about that is that if you have a pregnancy or an abortion, there's the potential that if the fetus has a positive blood type, then it's something like the baby could end up being anemic. It could be bad for the baby because your immune system would become sensitized to that other blood type. And so there's like an injection that I had to get before I had my abortion. And the point of this is that, like, there's a lot going on already medically. Like, there's a lot of shit that doctors need to do to, like, pay attention to you and, like, take care of you and make sure that things are going to be safe and effective. And, like, getting that injection was a necessary part of the treatment, but signing a fucking piece of paper that tried to like make me and the staff feel guilty about taking care of me, like that's not a necessary part of treatment. That shouldn't be there. That's not helpful to anyone except for, I guess, like conservative fifis, making them feel good about themselves. Like, God, I'm so moral. Okay. So there's our list that was under number 2. And so we get to number 3, any person or health organization providing a covered gender transition intervention to a patient or referring a patient for such an intervention shall document and retain in such patient's records a detailed description of compliance with provisions of Section 2. Doctors, do you ever find yourself on the job just bored as hell, got nothing to do, not enough patience, not enough ways to spend your time? Well, good news. I have created so much paperwork that's the only thing. If you have one trans patient, your new job is just doing paperwork for the one trans patient. Great. That's one of the reasons why, like, I think that we should not panic about this, because I think a lot of doctors are just going to say, no, fuck you. Fuck you, I'm not doing this. There is no universe where there is enough time or resources to even fucking make this happen. Number 4, if an application of any provision, word, or clause to any person or circumstances is found by a court to be invalid, the application alone shall be severed, and the remaining possible applications of every provision, word, and clause to all other persons and circumstances shall remain in force. I'm going to be real with you here. I have no idea what any of these words mean. This does not compute in my brain, and I think I've probably said enough. This is really scary. But again, like, I don't think we should panic. What you should do is find a way to take care of yourself. If you live in Missouri, if you live in any red state right now, you should be preparing for something like this to happen. I have a few extra vials of testosterone that I was able to be provided, prescribed by my doctor. I told her that I was worried that something like this could happen soon, because I have been paying attention to the news. I've been paying attention to what the fucking GOP is doing to us. They want us to fucking die. They want us to kill ourselves. They know that access to transition keeps us safe, keeps us healthy, keeps us happy, and keeps us alive. They don't want us to exist. That is why they're doing this. They want us to fucking disappear. I'm always going to be here. I've been in a depressive episode the last few weeks, which is why I haven't published anything for the last several, I guess, like 2 weeks. But like, here I am. I want to show you guys that it's going to be okay. I really mean that. I'm scared. My girlfriend is scared. I'm really angry. But I know a lot of people who will help me if I need help. And I need you to find people who can help you like that. It's not hopeless. There are a lot of problems right now, and they're really bad. They're really serious. But it's actionable. Every problem that you have in life right now is actionable. You can find solutions. You can find continued access to your HRT. So, like, please, like, don't despair. Don't let this, just don't let it, like, overwhelm you and overcome you. Like, it's going to be okay. We should be trying to make people aware of this, which is what I'm doing with this video right now. And we should be doing our best to, like, reach out to each other and try to keep each other safe if we have ways of, we can support each other, and it's going to be all right. Like, no matter what happens, we can be okay. And that's what I want to leave you guys with today. Okay. I'll see you guys next time.